Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'm going to talk about how to build the perfect resume. So let's get started. So in this video, I'm going to go over what kind of resume layout you should have as an engineering student and what kind of information you should have on that resume to catch the employer's interest and to get them to interview you. So I'm just going to give an example of a resume that I have currently. This is the resume that I've been using and have used in the past to apply to internships and to apply to jobs. Now, of course, you don't have to follow this layout and you don't have to have the same information that I'm going to explain in the video, but there are certain limits. You don't want to have a string of sentences all in one little area because of course that doesn't look good or look pretty to anyone. You want a resume that is catching the employer's attention. So I'm going to go over the resume that I have currently and that I've used, and I hope you guys find it helpful. And yeah, so we're just going to get into it. So you can see here at the very top I have my name and then the type of degree that I'm getting. So at the time I was getting a computer engineering degree, so I had my name and then right underneath it, computer engineer. This is a way for the employer to see my name and what I'm getting my degree in. It catches their attention and they know immediately, okay, that's this person, that's what their experience is in. And right underneath that I have in smaller text my address, my phone number, and then my email address. The next part I have is the career objective and summary. So I have an objective. I explain what I want to do in the position that I'm applying to, what I plan on doing, and what I'm passionate about. So I say to work at a world-class corporation where I can apply to my talents as a computer engineering student. My passion is aligned towards software projects as code improvement, data analysis, automation, and front-end development. And then the next one is the summary. Now here in this summary is where you want to tailor the information towards the position or the company where you're applying to. For example, I've worked at, and then I have the name of the company, as an intern. So this was the time when I was applying for a full-time position at that place since 2017. And then I explain in general the different aspects that I had learned and done while working on different projects through my internship. And then I put when I graduated with my master's degree in computer engineering. That's one thing you want to keep in mind, is to just make sure the resume is updated and to keep track of all projects that you've done. So you also want to take note that the objective and summary are very short. The objective is 2 sentences and summary is only 3 sentences. You got to keep it short, sweet, and to the point, because having a lot of text there, it just gets really long, and the employers won't want to read it. People are lazy. They won't want to have to read through all that information because there's a whole stack of other resumes that they have to go through. The next part is the core skills. So in this resume, I have a list of the skills that I had learned as an intern and that I have experience in. So I have programming languages, I have a list of the languages there. Then I have all the software tools that I'm familiar with, as well as the hardware tools. And then I have another section called soft skills. So these are all skills that don't involve technical work. It's just more of like being able to manage myself, manage my time, and all of that. Those are all soft skills. And again, you want to also take note that these core skills, they're just the names of the software and hardware that I had worked on. The next one is professional experience. So here is where I have it set up so that I start from the most recent position and job that I have had currently, and then I go backwards. So I start from the current year, which was 2020, March 2020, and then I go back until that internship had started, which was August 2017. And from there, I have a list of the different projects that I had worked on, where I just give a brief 1-sentence summary on what I did, and then the next 2 bullets within each of these projects are explaining this a little bit more in detail. So for example, the first project listed is that I had created a program to measure the performance and compare multiple embedded software languages, and those languages that I had compared were MicroPython, C++, and Xamarin. And the impact of this was that the C++ is the fastest performance. I was able to determine that, and also determine that the MicroPython was easiest to implement, but it wasn't nearly as fast. The impact of this was to just figure out what the differences are in performance between these three languages when they're implemented on a firmware. This position was more for those who had more experience in the programming area, the software area, more so than the hardware. But I did put information about embedded software languages because it was still programming. I still had to learn new programming languages and code that firmware. That's why I put that project in there. Again, there were some that I had left out because it had no relevance to the job application or the position. And that's one thing to note, is that if you are a sophomore or a freshman in college and you don't have that experience, then you should at least put what you have done in high school. When you graduated high school, what your GPA was. Make sure to keep note of that and to put that in there. You can put some work experience if it is related. Anything you can find that is slightly related to that internship is good. So if I flip the page over, which I probably should have just had another page, but flip that page over and I have another section called education. You can see here that I just have the place where I got my degree, what degree I got, as well as when I graduated and my GPA at the time. So those are just three things, just short and sweet, keep it simple. And again, this is ordered so that it starts from the most current education that I got, which was a master's, and then it goes back from there. The last thing is the professional references. So here I have 3 different people that I had listed. You could do max probably 5. I wouldn't do any more than that because then it just gets too long, and I would do at least 3 because you need to have those 3 different people that the employer can contact if need be to get more information about who you are as a person. For example, if you are a freshman or a sophomore and you haven't had that experience, you haven't been able to work in any sort of engineering field, then you can always put your professor as one so that they can, say that, okay, this person has been doing very well in this class that I have them in. And then you can also put someone in a place that you work at currently. Maybe you work at a restaurant. You could refer to the manager there. The last person is maybe another professor. I would suggest not putting anyone who is a relative because the employer, I don't think, would really take that into consideration because, of course, it's your relative, it's your family member. People always want to help their family members and they always think good of their family members, even when that might not always be the case. So at the end of the day, just have only professional references. And once again, if you are currently working as an intern, make sure you put the manager that you are working under. Put your mentor's name as well because they're the ones who work close to you. And so that's all the information that I have in my resume. And again, something to note is that I tried to keep this information in one page. Obviously, that wasn't possible because as I got more and more experience and I had more and more projects, I had to explain those and show that I know this information and how I learned this information and what I actually did accomplish so that the employer sees what I know and what I'm able to do. So of course that expanded to 2 pages just slightly, but for the majority of the time before I applied to this job, I had a 1-page size resume. Personally for me, it's important to keep the resume to 1 page because it keeps everything short and concise, and it makes it easier for the employer to see all the information that you've done, all of the experience you've had in 1 page. They don't have to flip from page to page and then get lost or confused or get tired of reading the information because there's just so much of it. And again, you always got to keep in mind that there are a stack full of other resumes that they would have to go through and look through. So they're going to try to go through yours as fast as possible and find out as much information in that amount of time. So if you have a lot of information in your resume, then it would be harder for them to see the general overview of who you are and what you've done and your experience. That's just a personal preference. There are other people who say that, oh, you should extend it further. 1 page is not enough. You should put, 2 pages at least because you need to go into detail about this information and employers want to look at the details. But personally for me, if I was an employer and I was looking for someone to hire into a position, and there were a lot of resumes, I would want to look for resumes that were short and sweet and concise and they were to the point. That way I was able to get as much information as I could about that one particular person before I moved on to the next one. Instead of going into detail about what they did and how they did it, because those specific details, yes, they are important, but I feel like they should be kept for the interview because if the employer finds that what you've done is actually pretty relevant and interesting and could help the company and the actually fill the requirements of the role, then they will ask you to interview. And if you go there, that's where you can then explain how you did all of this work, or go into detail about that particular project that you worked on and how that affected you and how you learned from that and what you learned. And all of that time during the interview process, you're basically explaining everything you know, and you are emphasizing all of the projects you've done, and also all of the information that you've learned and your skill sets. All of that will take up the majority of the interview, and you'll leave that interview being seen as someone who is very knowledgeable in that area and who has learned from those projects and has done a lot of projects and has been able to grow their skill set and learn and be disciplined and all of that. So I honestly think having one page is good, but again, some people may think that having more than one page is better. So it's honestly up to you. And again, just keep in mind that this is just an example resume. It's just a resume that I have and I am currently using. So whatever works for you and whatever you think would actually be better, there may be some things that you may find aren't very helpful, or that there may be information that I didn't add into it that you think would be helpful given the circumstances or given the job description. So just make sure you keep in mind that this is just an example, and to not take it word for word. This is just more of a guide on how you can build a good resume and then get that interview. So yeah, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you would like me to talk about another video about internships or interviewing or anything like that, please let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, I hope you guys like this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.